finally, with a click still louder, pushed the drawer home. All these slight sounds were familiar to Mrs. Maldon. They were part of her regular night life, part of an unconsciously loved ritual, and they contributed in their degree to her placid happiness. "Now the blinds, my dear," said she. The exhortation was ill-considered, and Rachel controlled a gesture of amicable impatience. For she had not paused after closing the drawer. She was already on her way across the room to the window when Mrs. Maldon said, "Now the blinds, my dear." The fact was that Mrs. Maldon measured the time between the lighting of gas and the drawing down of blinds by tenths of a second. Such was her fear lest in that sinister interval the whole prying town might magically gather in the street outside and peer into the secrets of her inculpable existence. Part 2. When the blinds and curtains had been arranged for privacy, Mrs. Maldon sighed securely and picked up her crocheting. Rachel rested her hands on the table, which was laid for a supper for 4, and asked in a firm, frank voice whether there was anything else. "Because if not," Rachel added, "I'll just take off my pinafore and wash my hands." Mrs. Maldon looked up benevolently and nodded in quick agreement. It was such apparently trifling gestures, eager and generous, that endeared the old lady to Rachel, giving her the priceless sensation of being esteemed and beloved. Her gaze lingered on her aged employer with affection and with profound respect. Mrs. Maldon made a striking, tall, slim figure, sitting erect in tight black, with the right side of her long, prominent nose in the full gaslight, and the other heavily shadowed. Her hair was absolutely black, at over 70. Her eyes were black and glowing, and she could read and do coarse crocheting without spectacles. All her skin, especially round about the eyes, was yellowish-brown, and very deeply wrinkled indeed. A decrepit, senile skin, which seemed to contradict the youth of her pose and her glance. The cast of her features was benign. She had passed through desolating and violent experiences, and then through a long, long period of withdrawn tranquillity, and from end to end of her life she had consistently thought the best of all men, refusing to recognize evil, and assuming the existence of good. Every one of the millions of her kind thoughts had helped to mould the expression of her countenance. The expression was definite now, fixed, intensely characteristic after so many decades, and wherever it was seen it gave pleasure, and by its enchantment created goodness and goodwill, even out of their opposites. Such was the life-work of Mrs. Maldon. Her eyes embraced the whole room. They did not, as the phrase is, beam approval, for the act of beaming involves a sort of ecstasy, and Mrs. Maldon was too dignified for ecstasy. But they displayed a mild and proud contentment as she said, "I'm sure it's all very nice." It was. The table crowded with porcelain, crystal silver, and flowers, and every object upon it casting a familiar curved shadow on the whiteness of the damask toward the window. The fresh crimson and blues of the everlasting Turkey carpet being the ne plus ultra of carpentry in the Five Towns, when that carpet was bought, just as sealskin was the ne plus ultra of all furs. The silken polished sideboard, strange to the company but worthy of it, and exhibiting a due sense of its high destiny. The sombre bookcase and corner cupboard darkly glittering. The Chesterfield sofa, broad, accepting, acquiescent. The flashing brass fender and copper scuttle. The comfortably reddish walls with their pictures, like limpets on the face of precipices. The new whitened ceiling. In the midst the incandescent lamp that hung like the moon in heaven. And then the young sturdy girl standing over the old woman and breathing out the very breath of life, vitalizing everything, rejuvenating the old woman. Mrs. Maldon's sitting-room had a considerable renown among her acquaintance, not only for its peculiar charm, which combined and reconciled the tastes of 2 very different generations, but also for its radiant cleanness. There are many clean houses in the Five Towns, using the adjective in the relative sense in which the Five Towns is forced by chimneys to use it. But Mrs. Maldon's sitting-room, save for the white window curtains, which had to accept the common grey fate of white window curtains in the district, was clean in the countryside sense, almost in the Dutch sense. The challenge of its cleanness gleamed on every polished surface, victorious in the unending battle against the horrible contagion of foul industries. Mrs. Maldon's friends would assert that the state of that sitting-room passed them, or fair past them, and she would receive their ever-amazed compliments with modesty. But behind her benevolent depreciation she would be blandly saying to herself, "Yes, I'm scarcely surprised it passes you, seeing the way you housewives let things go on here." The word "here" would be faintly emphasized in her mind, as no native would have emphasized it. Rachel shared the general estimate of the sitting-room. She appreciated its charm and